welcome to Small Town Big Business, a podcast about doing big business in small town rural America. I'm Jennifer Olson, Director of Business Development for the City of Marion, and I'm here with my co-host.
I'm Russ Williams, Director of Ethos. Ethos is a small business incubator, co-working spaces, training and development center here in downtown Marion, Illinois. Welcome. Glad you could join our podcast today. We also want to welcome and thank our sponsors for making the podcast possible. So I'll name those: Arcadia Wealth Group, Banterra Bank, Black Diamond Harley Davidson and RV, Fowler Heating and Cooling, Southern Illinois Now, Swinford Media Group, our producer at Union Street Arts, and of course the Watermark Auto Group Foundation.
Please subscribe, follow, share, rate, review, do all the things that help others like you find our show. We really, really appreciate it.
Jennifer, we have a special guest today.
Yes, we do.
Do you want to do an introduction for us?
Well, I'm going to try.
Yeah.
Guy and Michelle Aitchison.
Aitchison, yes.
All right.
Yeah.
Yay. I always want to put some extra vowels in there. I don't know why.
There you go. Welcome. Glad you're here.
Thank you for having us. We really appreciate being on your show.
Yeah. Awesome.
So you all have been in our community in Southern Illinois for quite some time. Mm-hmm. And how has that evolved? How are you becoming more active in the area?
You want to start?
Sure. Well, we've been down here since 1997. We moved here from Chicago when we were pretty young. And at first we did a lot of traveling and had a private studio in Coral Springs. And then more recently we've been getting involved with the arts locally because we see the town changing and developing and we want to be part of the change. So we've been hosting art socials and we've been doing pop-ups and just doing more outreach towards bringing the arts to Marion on a local level for our interaction with it.
So just as a follow-up, you said studio. So what does studio mean to you and your business?
Oh, you want to answer or do you want
Sure.
me to? Okay.
Well, we are multifaceted artists. One of our main things that we both do is tattooing, and we work on custom clientele, people that, most of them travel to see us because they're looking for a very particular thing, and that's kind of the way the tattoo business has evolved, is you've got specialty artists, and Michele has sort of a abstract floral specialty. She often works in birds and other characters, and I do sort of a biomechanical, science fiction-y sort of look, and we each have our followings that come to us, and we also paint and work in other mediums. Michele actually is a musician as well, and we've experimented with just about every art form that we can get our hands on. In our studio, most of our actual income is from either tattooing or painting and print sales. Mm-hmm. We do a lot of online business.
How did you get started in the tattoo business? Is that the original business, or did you transition?
That was my original business. I had an apprenticeship when I was 20 years old back in Chicago, mm-hmm. and I wanted to be a tattooist very badly. Something about the art form just was extremely appealing to me. Almost obsessively, and as it turned out, it was a good art form for me, and it afforded a lot of freedom, traveling, doing guest spots with other artists all over the country, trade shows. Michele and I probably did 150 tattoo conventions, where we got to work alongside artists from all over the place, teach seminars, and be involved in other events, and so that got us thinking about art events in general. And, since we've kind of been broadening our artistic footprint outside of tattooing, especially here locally, we've seen all these opportunities now. So we're kind of getting our event-making gears into action now, and we're trying new things.
Mm-hmm.
And reaching more locally instead of abroad, I would say.
Mm-hmm. And when did you come along? Were you also part of the tattoo industry before?
When I lived in Chicago, I was a hairdresser, and I was an art school student. So we moved down here, and I started tattooing because I needed an outlet, and I just wanted to switch to doing something more artistic. I loved doing hair, but it was nice to make pictures on people. It was more, meaningful to me because it was so permanent. And we were just traveling and doing tattoos, and I had my own sense of style, and I wanted to see that in tattooing. So the type of work that I do it's not traditional. It's more like lighter in color and pastel and painterly, and that's just been my signature style for the past 20 years, really.
Well,
Yeah, but I learned to tattoo because I was associated with Guy, and it just sort of was a natural evolution when we came down here.
So I know you have customers from all over,
Yeah.
not just within our country, but international. How do people find you?
In the olden days, before social media,
Yeah.
there were magazines, and Michelle and I had really good relationships with the magazine publishers, and they always treated us well. And so, pretty much every magazine that came out, there'd be at least a picture of us in our booth, and we had articles regularly. We tried to make a point of having a spread of our work in one of these magazines at least once a year. So we were very proactive about getting the work out there. And as it transitioned from magazines into social media, it became a little bit harder to get that favorable treatment that we were getting from the magazines. We had to actually sort of start competing with all the other artists who were popping up at that time. It suddenly became vastly more competitive, which was interesting because a lot of these are changes that were brought on because of all the education happening in tattooing, which I was partly responsible for. So
Yeah, tell the percentage of the industry and how it's grown since.
Oh my goodness. Okay, at the time in the 1990s, the early 90s, there were about 10 or 15,000 tattoo artists in America. We are now having there's 2 million tattoo artists in America.
Yeah.
The growth rate is 7%, which you're looking at 3 million by 2030 unless it slows down. And so it's become way more competitive.
Yeah.
You're now getting tattoo artists who are having to do side jobs. Others are considering new lines of work. It's become a very desirable profession for young people. It's got a lot of kind of hipness factor to it, and a lot of people kind of come in, don't make very much money, and leave pretty quickly. But it makes it harder for those of us who are well established. So it's just been a project to make sure that we remain relevant, make sure that our work stays ahead of the curve, that we're still, engaging the public, doing the interviews, et cetera. And, people still consider us to be, founding people in the styles that we work in.
And constantly producing content. That's also pressure because maybe your work isn't ready to post, but if you don't have something to post, then, you want people to be reminded that you still exist and that you're a busy artist. But since we have so many other interests, we alternate between tattooing and painting and promoting and parenting.
Are there levels of mastery in the industry? Are you known as a...
Well, yeah, I'm definitely... I've been around a long time, and I've been an educator in the industry since the mid-'90s. So, that's kind of my position in this whole thing.
Guy's pretty well known in tattooing. Like, he's pretty famous.
So do you travel to teach, or is it all online now? Or?
It's all online now, mostly because I just don't care to travel as much. We've got a nice setup here. We're busy parenting and everything else. And
But you did that for a long time.
Oh, for a long time. Yeah. Every convention we went to, I would teach a seminar, and it was variations on the same theme, and I eventually kind of turned that into an online program. Which
You wrote several books on the topic.
Yeah, there's been some books. There's been a lot of DVDs.
You've done a lot of books.
Lots of stuff. Yeah, we've done a lot of publishing.
Reinventing the tattoo, because when we came into tattooing, it was very different than it's become now, and so Guy was I think a big contributor to the changing in tattooing and it going in a new direction.
I wanted to come in and sledgehammer a bunch of old walls. That was my thought, because there were some very small and defined ideas of how a tattoo should be done, and some of that stuff had some validity to it, but all of it needed to be re-examined and reinvented. And so the whole art form has completely gone through a renaissance.
Yeah.
And continues to do so.
It continues to, yes.
It's not stopping. It's just continuing to change and grow.
Did we mention business name already? Do you guys?
So our business name is called Hyperspace Studios.
Okay.
And we started it as Hyperspace Studios because in the 90s when the internet was just getting popular, we kind of existed online more than, that was our location. It wasn't necessarily an address since it was a private studio. So the word hyperspace is multi-dimensional space, and we were just branding ourselves, and that's what we've been with ever since.
So you were kind of talking about how the practice has changed. Do you mind to tell us a little bit about how you think the world's acceptance of tattoo has changed? And then I would love to hear how you think our rural part of the state has changed and evolved. So there's a lot in that question, I know.
I think the acceptance of tattooing has changed because everywhere you go, you see tattoos. I mean, you can't avoid them. Every kind of person has tattoos, and it's become more normalized. And I think that the popularity makes it easier for people to be tattooed and not necessarily looked at as like another kind of person. They're just a person with a tattoo. And in rural America, I mean, I'm noticing good tattoos everywhere. Everywhere I go, I see really well done, beautifully crafted tattoos. So it used to be that you had to seek out artists and you had to go to bigger cities where people had more skill sets. And now it's like good work is everywhere. I mean, in Marion, when I'm walking around, I see beautiful tattoos all the time and always impressed. And it makes me feel good because it feels like people see it as art now and they don't see it as something that's a negative association, which might have been the case not that long ago.
Although I was standing with you Sunday and you saw a magazine that was a statewide tourism magazine, and something that wouldn't have caught my eye. She's like, she looks on the back, and the back full page cover in color is somebody who has visible tattoos. Now, I think in the scenario was it's a restaurant worker, but I'm like, gosh, that didn't stick out to me. But the more I thought about it, I was like, that is a change. That would have been something that, I don't know, 10 years, definitely 20 years, we would have said, well, we don't want any models that have anything visible. We want a model to look like, whatever.
The fact that it didn't stick out to you is part of the change. Like you just saw this person with a tattoo and it didn't cross your mind that there was anything about it.
Right.
It was perfectly normal. And that's a huge change compared to 30 years ago.
Yeah, and a lot of my clients are professionals. They're doctors and people that are educated and they have large-scale body work and they come from far away to get tattooed. They embrace it as an art form.
We get a lot of medical professionals.
Yeah, a lot.
Mm-hmm. How far away? How far are people traveling to come?
Some of my clients come from Seattle. They come from Oregon. They come from California. They come from Ohio, so Chicago. Pretty much regional, too.
A lot of Cleveland and Columbus area people. But, I've got an Oregon guy this week. Next week, I've got a guy flying from Israel. So,
have you already consulted with them before they come? Have you narrowed down exactly what they want and if you can do it?
Yeah, of course. Now, in my case, one of my specialties is I cover up old tattoos. Mm-hmm. Somebody's got an ugly tattoo and they want to revitalize it or completely change it. I'm very good at that. And probably 2/3 of what I do is cover up. And so this is somebody who's already had a cover up and it's terrible and made the situation worse. Mm-hmm. He's willing to fly here from Israel to make it right. Mm-hmm. And so he sent me photos and I've done some rough sketches. And by the time he's here, I'll have a much more refined drawing that he can look at and say, yeah, I like this. Maybe we could change that. What about this color? And, from there we, nail down the specifics and we do it.
Mm.
Awesome. Well, so you're certainly ambassador for guests and kind of part of the tourism tapestry. So I'm going to circle back to, from your perspective of having been a resident since 97 and from what you witnessed through the eyes of your visitor, how have things changed or how is the area viewed?
Well, in the past, when we first moved here, we would drive through the town square and there wasn't really anything. And it kind of made me sad because I saw the potential, all the cool old buildings. And I was sad that everything was on 13, so now when people come and see us, they love what's going on in the town square. They spend time here. They go to the farmer's market. They sometimes go to the cafe downstairs, the vault. They see the change, and we feel like there's more to offer our clients because when they come here, there's something to do. They would rather support independently owned businesses and be in the downtown and see the charm here because that's where a lot of the individual energy is. And so I feel like in the course of being here for the amount of time that we have, we've seen great change, and it makes me happy. I like to see the downtown revitalized. It's sad when downtowns are boarded up because that's really like the heart of a town. It's the identity of it. It's where the historical buildings are, and our clients now are noticing that. They say things. They love the coffee house. They go and get a latte, and they feel like there's something to do when they're waiting for us before they get their tattoo appointment. And makes me happy.
And here's a change that I've definitely noticed too is 2-3 years ago, that recently, every one of our clients pretty much were staying in hotels. Mm-hmm. And now almost all of them, I'd say 70%, are staying in Airbnb type spaces, and many of those are here in the downtown. So it's a change in what people want, just in their accommodations. They're kind of tired of the old, corporate hotel thing, and although that's definitely got its place, they as individuals traveling sometimes with their families, they want a space that's got character, that you've got some things you can walk to. That's a miracle too. Just having a neighborhood that you can walk around, you can get coffee, you can get breakfast, you can, if it's
go for a drink in the evening
later in the day, there's great places to eat. So it's for somebody to actually stay in the downtown, they could park their car and not have to use it.
Yeah, and I really like that. I like that change, and it's really noticeable.
Well, I love that you are community focused. We have to introduce that sometimes in our conversations with folks, but you guys were in the cutting edge of that and now growing in order to be part of that. So tell us a little bit about what you have happening now and what the future might be that's going to add to our community.
Sure, I'd love to. We bought a building. It's 111 North Madison, and we're working on building an art gallery, and the upstairs will be an Airbnb for people to stay at, tourists, our clients, and it's going to be like an art house where there's going to be art, of our art mostly on the upstairs floor, but other people's art too, and we're just creating an interactive art space a block from the square. So we're really excited about that.
We're going to be focused on local and regional artists. We may occasionally do a call out to a more national group, but it's going to be primarily focused on artists that we've met in our meeting in the southern Illinois area. And in the course of putting on Art in the Garden twice, and putting on the art socials, and just going to other art events, because now we're trying to get out there a lot more. We've met so many people, and great visions, great talents, original thinkers. These are people that we're finding ourselves doing events with or making plans with. And it seems like this community is almost magnetic, as everyone's finding each other, they're just wanting to do more and wanting to make more happen. So that's been very exciting.
What do you think is attracting those artists to Marion, Illinois, or Southern Illinois?
Michele and I have always been hungry for this, and I think that artists in general are hungry for that. And the minute it starts to show, people will be attracted towards it, and will do what they can to make it grow. And it's just in this region there was not enough of an undercurrent of the arts for that kind of a scene to really gel. And that's one of the biggest changes that's happened in the last few years, is all across the entire southern Illinois area, but this little nexus around this downtown, it's just got such a shining light in terms of attracting that energy, and there's so much development happening here, and the idea of having an arts district, people want that. People really want that. People like Michele and I, and the kinds of people that we hobnob with, are just attracted like moths to a flame when there's a chance for interactive, creative community.
I think people are drawn to the Marion vibe because the word art is everywhere too. I mean, Union Street Arts, Art Starts. You've got the Marion Cultural Civic Center. You've got a lot. Our art gallery. There's Little Egypt's Arts Association. There's Jennifer Colbert's Bits and Pieces. There's a lot of that already. So I feel like if someone notices that is creative, they might want to be part of that too. And it's a small, self-contained town. It's not too big. Chicago's pretty big. It's hard to. I mean, I like living there, but there's so much of everything. It's nice when there's just a little bit of something. It means so much more, because without it, there's nothing. So I feel like that's what I'm attracted to, is just creating a niche for something that there's no representation of, and everyone has their little niche on the square, and it just feels like it's filling a picture that has a lot of creative potential and energy.
And I think too, it's not art specific. I don't think people would define it this way, but I'm seeing merchandising in stores that has more flair to it. And it's not just bits and pieces that's art specific, but the way Glacier's Inn displays, the way Milkweed displays, Lavish has beautiful displays, and even Little Nashville Cafe, he's incorporated some music art into his space. And I think that just elevates the whole experience. People think they're shopping, but really they're kind of already just immersing themselves in a very artsy experience.
It's almost a gallery.
Yeah. Well, I would say that is very creative. Like all those things that you described is an output of creativity and individually crafted creativity. So that's really nice to see, and especially storefronts and displays, because it engages someone and makes them want to go in, and it all contributes. Everything that each individual business is doing is contributing to a collective whole that makes the whole town look good and do well. I think that's really important.
Yeah.
It's a group effort.
You briefly mentioned Art in the Garden. Would you do just a little more time on each of the events that you all have been engaged with or continue to move forward?
Okay, well, we were doing Monday Art Social at Union Street Arts for over a year, and that was really great. And we were pulling from this area of Williamson County, but we were also pulling from Jackson County, and a lot of people from Carbondale, professors from SIU were coming. So we were trying to build an arts community and also allow an opportunity for kids especially to engage in the arts, because for many reasons I feel like art, whether you're a good artist or not, it doesn't matter. It's really good for mental health. It's good for it's an outlet. It's non-language specific. It's just about your feelings, emotion, use of color. So that was something we were really drawn towards participating in. And then we did Art in the Garden with Union Street Arts and Project Human X and Mandela Gardens. And Project Human X is an arts collective in Carbondale, and they do a lot of events. And that was really important to us too, because we wanted to do outreach and do community building through art. So we've been working on that for a good solid year, if not more. And it occurred to us that was important because we were doing it. And so that prompted us to want to buy a building in town and create an art gallery. Mm-hmm. So Art in the Garden was just community outreach through the arts to try to get people together in a less formal way. We wanted it to just be like a festival with music and food and individual artists showing their stuff, but less curated, a little bit more, how would you describe it, Guy?
I mean, we wanted it to be quirky and creative and not too predictable. Yeah, it was a great vibe. I mean, more than anything else, I love the way it feels at that festival. I mean, I didn't like the 96 degrees of this last one. But,
unfortunate.
Yeah, but the kinds of people that show up, it is very family friendly. You know, you see all these kids just running around. It feels very safe, very like idyllic, summerish kind of vibe, with all these tents up and people in their art and people drumming and music and
focused on wellness. We had like Reiki and massage and uplifting elements to it.
And although, you know, we did have vendors and we were, you know, hoping the vendors would make money, the most of it was done, you know, entirely on a volunteer or barter kind of basis, so that it could be free to the public. And, you know, we were just doing it to do it and to meet people. Actually, a word that I like to use, I got from Marquez from Project Human X, is social currency. And I feel like that's the payment for this past year for us, because without community, you don't really have anything. If you're trying to, you know, create change or have an art movement or have a business that you want people to come to, it's really important, and it's hard to do. I feel like people just don't get out as much. They don't really want. They want to go, but then they just don't show up. And I would say that if you ask me what the biggest obstacle is right now, is getting people to show up. And I mean for everything. I'm not just talking about what we're doing. And even when all the ingredients are just perfect and right, and why wouldn't you want to go? It's like you heard about it. It's the best thing you can imagine to do on that day. People still don't show up. So I don't know how to change that. But we work on it, and we really try, you know, and that's like a goal, but also a frustration.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
But if you're going to talk about the key resource for the kind of business that we're doing, social currency.
Social currency.
Yeah, that is the key resource, because this is about involvement, engagement, interest of people, you know, thinking bigger and finding, you know, places where their dreams can take shape. That takes a lot of interaction. It takes a lot of, you know, meeting people repeatedly, seeing them at different events.
Well, also showing up for their events. If we cannot expect people to show up for us if we don't show up for them. But then what do you do when your schedule is full? And you're trying to put it all together, because that's also what I'm going through right now. It's like we've got 5 commitments on the same day. How do you get to all these places so you can show people you're present for them, so they will be present for you?
Yeah.
That's something also that we're
Well, I feel like you're still at the very beginning, even though you've been in this community for such a long time. These tensions that you're having is what you find on the front end, right? Of trying to start something new and be innovative. So keep doing it. I mean, you're building community, and those people are going to come out and talk about what you're doing. It's word of mouth, I think. And I'm glad you're doing the podcast, because hopefully the podcast will bring some people to events too.
Yes, and we just started doing art social at the Carnegie Library, and they welcomed us with open arms. They're like, we can make a program if you want, but that would just be maybe over time, because we don't want to necessarily commit our time like that necessarily right now, and we're not sure yet. How we would do that.
The library is a great
and they're seeing how it goes too with us. But last night was a success. We had like 16 people there.
Right.
If they made it a library program, then it would be open to the general public. So. That's also social currency and building through art. And I like the idea of inspiring children, especially since we have a child. I feel like kids are the future.
Talk about your child.
Okay, well, we have a kid, and she's quite the kid.
She's not an average kid.
She's not an average child.
She's an adult.
She's amazing. She's a novelist. She's written her fourth novel.
She's got one published. We're working on getting number 2 out sometime in the next couple of months.
She had a show at the Civic Center for a couple months. She sells her work regularly. Her name is Guy Rose Aitchison. She's 13.
13, yeah. It's amazing.
She's quite the kid. And I also feel like we're building the future for her. I mean, as parents, we want her to stick around and stay, if she wants to, in Southern Illinois. And I feel like there needs to be more places for younger people to want to go if you're a creative person. And
it was funny because when we were hemming and hawing a little bit about should we buy that building, she's like, it's my future too.
No, she actually told us that. She said it was her. We had to buy it. It was her future too.
That is wonderful.
Yeah, and I believe it is, and I love that, and I want to create more creative opportunities for young people to get engaged. I feel like art is universal.
Yeah.
Well, and Kai is embedded in everything that you do, but she's also, a participant at the conservatory, and, I feel like she's really got her hands in at Civic Center for sure. And I mean, I honestly, I wish I could get more young people to really understand the assets and take advantage of them like she is, because
there are opportunities out
I
there.
feel like I still hear there's nothing for young people to do, and I'm like, there is. You just have to make it happen.
Mm-hmm. Right, you have to show up. People have to show up and take that extra step, even if you have social anxiety and it's difficult. Sure. It's difficult for everyone, but the first step is showing up and get engaged and find what your niche is and do it. And there's also art starts if you want to act, if you want to listen to music. I took Kai to Little Nashville and we listened to live music. It was really nice. It wasn't like you have to be 21 to get in. And they had other kids there. We weren't the only ones. So I love that she engages. She opened the door and said, "Hi, Josh." She's like walking around the town square. So it's nice to have that kind of community and have a place where she can feel that way too.
That's good.
Yeah.
I love that when we give shout outs to other businesses and organizations. You just mentioned too, Art Starts in Little Nashville. Who else has been key people in this community or organizations that have come alongside you and really helped you grow?
Oh, well, I have to say Luke from Union Street Arts. He's been huge.
Where's he at?
He's at Union Street Art. Is it 118 North Union? Do I have the address right? I hope I do.
He's behind the camera.
Yeah, he's behind the camera, but he really kind of welcomed us. I mean, he welcomed me because we went on his podcast, and then Guy later went on his podcast, and I was like, wow, he's interesting, he's young, he's doing something cool. I want to be friends and know him. And then we ended up doing Monday Art Social and doing Art in the Garden with Union Street Arts, and he kind of inspired us to get more involved too. So I can't overlook that. That's an important.
I think we were kind of struck by the fact that he had, moved on from Marion like many young people do, but then he came back.
Yeah.
Because, he felt like there were opportunities to do something important here.
Pulled him back in.
Right.
I love that.
And so that that directly, made us feel kind of the same way. Like, we can make something interesting happen here.
Because you can either, and this is something I say a lot, so you can either sit on the sidelines and complain about what you don't have, or you can do something about it. So if you are willing to stick around in your town and make that niche happen that you feel is missing, I feel like that means so much more than just either leaving or complaining that it doesn't exist. And I see a lot of people doing that with the individual businesses that they're creating, and it really means a lot to me. I mean, it doesn't go unnoticed. Yeah.
Well, and I think too, events and happenings that are sourced from the people who want them tend to turn out better and more align with the vision, and also draw a whole different audience as opposed to things that are started out of the city. And it just doesn't always, we do a lot of good things, but the things for the people by the people just tend to hit their mark better and tend to get, I just look at different people who have been here for different events just in the downtown in the last 2.5, 3 years I've been here. And it has evolved so much. I mean, we say all the time, we see people at Third Thursday that we don't see any other time. We see people at Glacier Fest. We see people at the downtown cruise in that, it's like a whole new audience of people being introduced.
We could do one or two podcasts just about the events that we have now in this community or outside this community in Southern Illinois too. There's a lot of content. Like we couldn't have done that 3 years ago, for example. Some events, but not like today.
I absolutely love that because you have to represent different demographics if you want to appeal to a wider base.
Yep.
You can't just be in your little, this is my thing that I do and no one else exists, because then there's not room for other people to exist.
Right. And as you said earlier, there are some that we didn't know could be part of, right? Yeah. It was happening in some neighborhood and we didn't know that's what you guys were gathered. I'm a bicyclist, and so on Saturday mornings I'm surprised, what are they doing in that park when it's really open to the public, and they were trying to get people to come to that event too.
Or even the Glacier Fest we just did. I saw a lot of people driving by, but I don't know that those people knew they could come join. So I feel like creating more visibility and openness of saying these are the opportunities that you have. If you want to come, you should come, but I don't know how you reach people.
Educational, isn't it?
Yeah, educational, social media, getting the word out, and just trial and error. And also I have to say, there's a quote I really like. It's called Game of Inches, which means your increments will get you there, but sometimes it feels futile, but don't give up, because you just have to keep pushing forward, know what your goal is, keep your eye on the prize, and then eventually you see that happen. You see that change. You get that momentum. Yeah. Don't forget about Sisyphus pushing the rock up the hill, because sometimes it feels that way.
Yeah, like you're filling a swimming pool with a thimble, but you'll get there. You'll get there. And sometimes it happens in fits and starts. It feels like not much is happening, and then all of a sudden some things connect and big progress is made, and then it might seem slow again, and that is just the way it works.
Because progress is not linear, but it's still progress.
Well, those are great obstacles and challenges that people that listen to this podcast, that will really help them.
It's universally relatable.
It is, absolutely.
Yeah. Keep the faith. Whatever you're doing, if you believe in it, keep the faith. When it's slow, when you're encountering obstacles, when a new expense has come up, and part of you is just like, no, it's time for me to throw in the towel. That is when you need to double down and keep your faith in your path. This thing you've chosen to do, there's a reason you chose it. There were going to be obstacles, and a lot of the time we don't really appreciate how hard some of them are going to feel at the time we're going through them. But the minute we're past them, we're past them.
Yeah.
And it's always worth it. Yeah. It's those struggles that make it valuable.
Yeah, that is very valuable.
I think I would just echo everything that you just said, but also kind of coming full circle to the beginning of this interview, like being willing to evolve, realizing that you can't just do what you've always done, that the environment is changing all the time, and you have to observe it and be willing to find your path within what's happening outside of your business.
And be supportive of other people's paths too, so that there's camaraderie in the change and show up. Right?
Awesome.
That's great. Yeah. Is there anything that we missed that you would like us to talk about?
Well, I'm just thinking you guys are doing a great job with the work you're doing, and it makes me happy to see that, and we're happy to be part of the change. I want to be part of the change too. I've been seeing what's been happening in Marion, and we almost felt like we didn't have an opportunity because we didn't get involved sooner, but then an opportunity presented itself. Jennifer had a lot to do with that. Just meeting her, she inspired me to get involved. And it feels like I really feel like every day I wake up and I'm excited about it. Like I never look at it and be like, oh my God, we've got so much work to do, even though we do, because I'm just inspired and it feels really good. So,
more specifically, we're hoping to have an autumn 2025 opening date at Gallery 111. We're, right now working with an architect, working with people from the credit union, working with all these people. Getting quotes, and we're going to have to redo everything. But it's a small building. It's not overwhelming. I feel like it's going to be fun to do this. Even the staircase mess that has to be fixed up, I think I'm going to have fun with that, because I love taking ugly duckling stuff and making it nice. And Michele and I have revitalized a lot of spaces. Not a commercial one yet, so it's going to be...
Not to change the subject, but just tell you about a space we revitalized. Our private studio was a tractor pole barn with a dirt floor. You could just see through it. It was like super rustic and rough, and now it's really modern and cool and quirky, and it's an adorable space. And guys, it would have been cheaper to bulldoze it and start from scratch. But it's got so much charm because we took something kind of primitive and turned it into something really aesthetic. And so I'm not saying that about the building. The building is beautiful, and the fact that it looks urban because it's got the bricks, but it needs a lot of work on the inside.
Yeah.
Labor.
But we're going to be starting with actually showing art there about a year from now, and we're planning on having a new show every 6 weeks. And there'll be a lot of variety there, focused mainly on artists from the region. And we'll be involved in other events and things and pop-ups, but a lot of that we're still figuring out. And so if anyone's curious, you can follow us.
We're on Facebook and we're on Instagram, Gallery 111. We even have a website. It's gallery111.art. And follow our journey. Come see what we're doing. We're going to be posting pictures of the demolition and the construction and all the little things that we run into along the way.
Yeah.
Well, that was going to be my question. How do we follow the journey of the gallery? But also tell us how, if we want to find Hyperspace Studios, what's the best way?
Well, our website, I'm working on it right now, so it's not quite updated.
We have a very old website, and I'm almost
really
afraid
old.
to tell you. But
We don't want to promote it because it's like, it's so
problem.
dated. But you can find out who we were like 10 years ago by going, or longer.
You can find me on Instagram at Guy Aitchison Art, all one word. Michele is Michele_Lotus. And you can see our art there. Also on Instagram, we've got a Gallery 111 page. We've got an art social page there.
And the same, I'm on Facebook too, so all the same. Search Michele Lotus Aitchison, Gallery 111, and Hyperspace Studios on either social medias of Instagram or Facebook, and you can find us.
You can see our art. You can learn about the events we've got planned and whatever else we've got in the roster.
Or you can go to, I don't know when this will air, but my paintings are still at the Civic Center, if anyone's curious. Some people are coming up to me like, oh, I saw your paintings. So, just a
about 2 more
casual
weeks.
conversation. Yeah.
Okay, great.
And I love when I connect with interesting people on social media, because every once in a while something pops up and you get tagged in something like when the day Rob Zombie came to Thanksgiving.
Oh, yeah. I know, the day that Rob Zombie came to Thanksgiving. That was wild because it was just, so surreal. But every now and then a famous person has to eat dinner too.
That's right. I love it.
Yeah.
Guy and Michelle Aitchison.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you for being leaders in this community and for investing now in property that you're going to renovate. That's exciting.
We're loving it.
We love that just because we know what it takes to do that kind of work. Yeah.
Oh, well, we appreciate that and you shouting out to us because it's mutual.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great.
And thank you for bringing so many people to our area to discover what's here. We appreciate it very much. And we just never know what that's going to turn into itself.
Yep. And thank you again to our listeners and watchers and supporters of the Small Town Big Business podcast. Shout out to our sponsors, Arcadia Wealth Group, Banterra Bank, Black Diamond Harley Davidson and RV, Fowler Heating and Cooling, the Southern Illinois Now, Swinford Media Group, our producer, Union Street Arts, and that is Luke O'Neill, and also the Watermark Auto Group Foundation. Thank you to them all.
Thanks for being with us today. I hope, like Russ and I, you always find something new out about a local business, and if you enjoy it, please share it with somebody else. I'm Jennifer Olson, Director of Business Development at the City of Marion. You can find me at City Hall. I've stopped saying new because we've been there a year now.
Yeah.
Oh, I just said it. Whoops. Or you can find my contact information on LinkedIn.
And I'm Russell Williams. You can find everything at ethosmarion.org. Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next time on the Small Town Big Business podcast.